Great, so we're going to move on to the last presentation of the day before the panel. We have Alvin from LogiAnalytics. He'll walk you through his journey and what Logi just went through transitioning to a new, more usage-based business model. Alvin?
Hi, good afternoon. Hi. Great to see everyone here today. All right, I'm going to talk about the evolution of licensing at LogiAnalytics. First, we'll start off with a little bit about LogiAnalytics. We are a software company in the business intelligence space. We were founded in 2000, and we were first to market with a web standard approach to business intelligence. We're based in McLean, Virginia, which is right outside of Washington, D.C., which, if you've heard in the news, traffic has gotten a lot better in the past week or so. All right, so there's some upside there, just a little bit. It's a little bit upside. We are venture back. We received recently Series C funding, which oddly enough hasn't been announced yet. So I guess you guys have a scoop on some news there that you can look out for. Let's see. So again, my name is Alvin Wong. I am a product marketing manager at LogiAnalytics. Prior to joining Logi, I was with actually I was a software solutions architect at actually more than one SaaS software provider. So I guess if Ray is correct, me transitioning from SaaS to more of a on-premise software, I'm actually ahead of the curve. I'm behind the curve and then ahead of the curve. Right. I'm very happy to speak with everyone here today about a topic that we actually talk a lot about internally and with our prospects and with our customers, but not too often in an external setting like this. And that's around licensing. Okay. So as far as the agenda goes, I'm going to talk a little bit about our company, how we actually approach licensing as a competitive differentiator for us in our business. I'll describe a shift that occurred in our business several years ago. That is, when we focus on the OEM or embedded space for our products. Third, I'll talk about the evolution that is occurring as we speak, as we get ready to launch a new product, and that's called Logi Vision. And then I'll wrap up with a few takeaways. All right? Okay. First, licensing as a differentiator. Okay, so it seems like many of the speakers here beat up a lot on the mega vendors, right, today. It's very well known that in the traditional business intelligence space, it's fraught with problems. High cost to implement, not only from a software perspective, from the perspective of hiring expensive consultants that come in to implement a BI project. High time to value actually takes a long time to complete a project. Tools are traditionally hard to use, both from a developer standpoint and from the end user standpoint. And then there's also low success rate. So by the time you actually get to implement something, you might not actually get the results that you intend. And then finally, after all that, there's actually very high cost per user as well. And so when Logi was born, what we actually wanted to do was to solve these problems with new technology, but also with a new business model. And so we introduced LogiInfo. So this is our current product, which is a BI platform for creating BI applications. Right. So at the end of the day, our mission was to be able to quickly allow companies to create and distribute, share information across their audience, whoever needs it, whether it's internal employees, external stakeholders, customers, the world at large, whoever needs the information. And we wanted to do this and not have our customers be shackled by per user fees. Okay, this slide is a bit of a marketing slide, but if I can just highlight in the orange here, right, scalable information distribution, that's our sweet spot. No user fees was what we took to market at the end of the day. And licensing is a differentiator. So instead of going with per user pricing, which is what most companies did in the space, we offered a server-based license model. Okay, and this actually helped us in a variety of different ways. It actually clarified our value proposition, right? So our customers knew that we were not a platform for a small team of data analysts, right? What they wanted to do was to create scalable applications with our platform, and we encouraged that. It differentiated our offering as well. You know, from a packaging standpoint, what we did not do was to create different tiers of capabilities. What we did instead was we said, hey, we have all this great functionality. You get to use as much as you want. Okay? And with a server-based model or a hardware-based model, you know, depending on how you want to talk about it, it was very familiar to IT buyers. So we actually sold primarily to IT shops, software development firms, and they understood what this meant. Now, you know, sure, you know, we also had to provide some guidelines around sizing a particular application per the number of servers that you had. But at the end of the day, this was our value proposition to our customers. Okay? And then, you know, an interesting thing happened. So by not focusing on per user fees, you know, there was a very interesting outcome. You know, we actually achieved a very low, you know, industry-wide per user total cost of ownership amongst our customer base, right? Per user TCO is a very standard measure of cost in our industry. And by not focusing on it, you know, we actually got basically the intended result as our customers used our platform more and more for more and more users and wider deployments. So as a proof point to this, you know, there's an analysis report available from our website from Gartner. Right? They release the annual Magic Quadrant, you know, if you will, where they talk to customers of Logi. They talk to customers of other vendors as well. And as you can see in the bottom line, right, I mean, they'll state in their report, you know, we've got one of the lowest total costs per user in the survey. So this is not us. This is, you know, Proofpoint Industrywide. Now, to emphasize this point, you know, a lot of analysts like to do these 2x2 grids, right? These bubble charts. They kind of place people in different places, right? So as you can see here, you know, when you measure, you know, cost per user based on different functionality, right? We actually end up in the right quadrant. I'm sorry. What? Oh, you don't see anything there? Oh, well, okay. So as it turns out, okay, you got me. So as it turns out, I can't share that with you. Anyone know why I can't share that graph with you guys? No. You know. Prohibits it? Right, so we actually haven't licensed that particular report that has the graph I want to show you. Okay. So, you know, so I thought if anyone were to appreciate, you know, the situation I'm in, it would be you guys here at LicensingLive. Okay. So we take licensing very seriously. With, you know, not only licensing our own products to our customers, but also with all of the companies and partners that we work with as well. Okay. So now let's look at this great graph. I don't know, hopefully you guys can see this on the screen here. Just wanted to give you a quick overview of our current licensing process. So what systems are in place? You know, what do we have going on? So the first step, so let's see, how should I describe this? So we've got Logi there on the left side. We've got Logi, a system called DevNet here in the middle that I'll talk about. Then we've got a customer environment here in the bottom part of the screen. So in the first step in the license provisioning step, we have a client service individual who goes into a system that we call DevNet. DevNet is our back-end support system. And they enter in the particular information in order to create an entitlement. So number of servers and start and end date, let's say, right, for a particular customer. So that's step one. Step two, then, the customer then logs into DevNet themselves, does a little, you know, so we've got a self-service system in place. They enter in the name of the machine, and out comes a license key available to them. Step three, upon install, they enter in the license key inside of the application there. And then step 4, encode in the LogiInfo code. Then we validate that key, and everything kind of, there's a self-monitoring system, if you will, inside the application, so it knows the end date of the license and also how many servers we've got. Okay. Any questions about that? I mean, it's pretty straightforward. This is a completely homegrown solution. So that wraps up so my introduction to LogiAnalytics and how we approach licensing as a differentiator. Next, I'd like to talk about a shift that happened in our business a few years ago, in fact, and that's what we call the OEM, or the embedded part of our business. So in this part of the business, software and SaaS providers actually embed LogiInfo as their own white-labeled analytics offering. Right? So here you see a few screenshots of what software providers have done by taking our stuff, right, and create a completely white-labeled solution. They call it their own. They sell it as their own product. They either call it a separate analytics module, or maybe it's like built right into the application. And that's our OEM business, right? So the software and SaaS providers who do this are called our OEMs. It's not unlike, let's say, if you're an automobile manufacturer and you license GPS technology to build GPS navigation in your car, right? There's lots of different ways to integrate that functionality into your car, and then ultimately, if you're really ambitious, you can be like Google and create a self-driving car by integrating GPS technology and a whole bunch of other technologies together. But so at the end of the day, that's the OEM business. In this part of the business, how important is licensing? We recently did a survey of software and SaaS providers, which included not only our customers but also just software providers at large. So in this space, we asked them how important were the following factors in choosing a specific third party to deliver analytics within your application. So the top responses, were functionality, architectural alignment, obviously very important, really technical factors there. But the third top buying criteria was licensing. Right? Actually, even more important than pricing in a lot of ways, which is interesting. So in our market, there's a variety of different ways for you to actually pull together third-party products. And oftentimes you have to be careful about the distribution rights for those products to make sure that you do comply with those licensing frameworks that they have in place. Speed of implementation obviously is very much tied to time to market, so that's obviously very important. And then what ended up being not important were things like experience in our space or previous relationship. But so at the end of the day, licensing, at least in this particular market, very important. So we knew that it was very important to get licensing correct. So what did that mean for us? So it turns out that the server-based licensing was not ideal. It was, there's a variety of different reasons it didn't all fit all customers. We found that startups or small software companies, did not like server-based licensing. It was too expensive for them. They had 0 to just a handful of customers, so it didn't really work out. We also found that on the really higher end with larger systems that like to have multiple servers up and running for a particular product, it didn't really work out for them either. So what did we do? So here's what we did. So we offered actually multiple models. So server-based stayed. We also offered customer-based models as well. So you can start small, and then as you add more customers, you can grow with that, and then we will be aligned with your growth, if you will. We also offer unlimited models as well. So on the very high end, it's all you can eat at that point. If you didn't have to go through the trouble of counting users, counting end user customers, and so forth. Okay. And the reason we offered these various models was to make it easy to do business with us at the end of the day. We wanted to align ourselves with the customer business model. We wanted to make conversations really easy. Right? Once we understood how their business model operated, we wanted to align ourselves with that and grow with them over time. Okay? It also allowed us to address multiple subsegments within the business as well. So, by subsegments, I mean SaaS providers, I mean ISVs, right? If you have a perpetual model, we have a perpetual model. If you have a term-based model, we have a term-based model as well, okay? So we wanted to really tightly align ourselves in that manner. We also offer the option for folks to actually switch between models, particularly at renewal. I would say that most oftentimes it happened at renewal, but also midterm as well. So within the same contract, if it was favorable, we'd also allow you to switch too. So we offered folks a lot of flexibility in that regard. Okay. Now, when we look at return on investment and the shift that occurred in our business, today the OEM segment makes up over 50% of our overall business. So it was certainly very important for us to reduce as much of the friction in the buying process that we needed to. And as an end result, we actually made minimal investment. Now, we made some investment into new processes, but really not too much. We dabbled in how would I say, enhancing our homegrown capabilities to track every single metric, but that ended up being rather difficult for us to do. From an engineering perspective, it ended up not really being worth it. We did not want to invest those engineering resources to make it exactly right. We felt as though it was better spent, at least in this particular scenario, to put those resources into engineering our core product, if you will. And so ultimately, we yielded to more manual processing. So folks in client service had to follow up with customers, and it was more of a manual process instead of an automated one. So in terms of that diagram that I showed you earlier on, that didn't really change. That model stayed. I mean, those systems stayed in place and are still in place today. And we've augmented our additional business models with more manual processes. Okay. So that's the shift that occurred in the business model there to support that OEM business. And the next thing I'd like to talk about is really the next step in our evolution with a new product called LogiVision. So we are right now releasing a new product with a new business model. Okay, this is very exciting for us in a number of different ways. Okay. We have now, instead of a platform for IT and for software developers, we have an application for visual analytics and data discovery. This application is intended for business users, right? So instead of working with IT and having them develop content, the application is intended for business users to use and to gain insights from the data that they have. LogiInfo was an installed product. This new product can either be installed, downloaded and installed on your desktop, and it will also have a hosted option as well. So we'll be hosting this application on behalf of our users. And we're also foreseeing more of a transactional sales cycle at the end of the day. So today with Info, it's very much, there's a technical evaluation, right? With IT. In the future, we really foresee moving towards a model where folks can trial, download from our website, do a trial, complete a transaction, all online. And so that's where this product is headed. So what's it going to take to get us there? For us, like many of the presenters have already stated before me, flexibility for us is paramount. Okay? For as much time as we spent not going with per user fees, guess what the first business model out of the gate will be for this application? Per user. All right, okay. But it makes sense. So here and now, this makes a lot more sense for us because we're selling directly to users. That's at least out of the gate, the first business model that we will attach to the new application, and looking at how many users use the application, maybe create different tiers and different levels, whether we start at 5 or 10, 25, so on and so forth there. We also foresee self-service trials, like I mentioned before. How is licensing going to make it very easy for folks to trial, not only out of the gate, but what's going to happen when they actually make a purchase? Right? How can we make that process really easy for users? We're also looking at usage-based models as well. So the one that we're examining most closely is data usage. Right? So in this application, what it does is it ingests a set of data, let's say from a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet or from Salesforce.com, so that the user can analyze this data set. One of the metrics we're looking at is how much data are they actually analyzing, and that may be then the good metric to measure usage by. Okay. We also wanted the flexibility to handle both installed applications as well as cloud-based applications. So we really wanted a very seamless experience for the end user regardless of how they're using the application. One thing we're also looking at is a post-paid model as well. Right? Most software models are prepaid. We're potentially looking at how well we can support a post-paid model, meaning that they'll pay as they go, pay as they use the application. Okay? If they download it, they don't use it, well then they may pay maybe not much. I don't know. That's something that we are looking at. We are a data analytics company, and actually we should all be data analytics companies, each one of us, every one of us here and online. If you're watching this in the future, maybe there's something that comes after data analytics. I don't know. Not saying that we should all be held prisoner by needing data and not rely on our gut instincts, but we should definitely all be using data to inform the decisions we make and the actions that we take. Up until now, I can't really tell you how many people are using our current product, when they're using it. Right? When I was with the SaaS company, we knew. Right? We had information about when people used it, when they logged in. We knew that for some customers, if we had to take the system down, maybe Saturday night wasn't the best time. We had actually a lot of customers in the gaming segment. Right? When are most people playing online games? Right? Saturday night. Right? With our current product, we don't have this information. So we actually crave this data. So we can answer questions such as how much data is being used, what parts of the application do customers use, how long do people spend doing stuff. Unless I'm looking over their shoulder, there's really no way to know this. This intelligence would then enable us to improve the product for the obvious reasons. But it will also allow us to discover perhaps other ways to monetize as well, based on usage. So at the end of the day, I'll bucket our major functional requirements into 3 places. License provisioning. So how does the license get created? How does it get to the user? How does the user potentially input or maybe not input the license into the product? what if things change, right? Do I need to provision a new license? Right? So that's part of license provisioning, the way we look at it. License validation. So how do we ensure that customers are using the product for the terms that we've licensed, right? Whether it's, do they have 6 people logged in, even though they're licensed for 5, right? License validation. And the third piece is application usage monitoring that I described earlier. Okay? So then we come to the classic question, build versus buy. So what we knew? Well, we knew that it was going to be difficult and resource intensive to build this ourselves. Right? We knew it from past experience. We've tried this before. It's hard. We didn't like it. It was non-core to our product. Okay? Product and licensing are moving to the cloud. Right? We've got new business models emerging, whether it's cloud-based, Amazon, Azure in the cloud. We needed something that was not only flexible for us, but also allowed us to operate with a high level of agility as things change. Okay. Flexibility and agility. So product management and sales want the flexibility and agility. Right? Sales wants, hey, I just talked to a whole group of customers who didn't like the way we do business. Let's change the piece of paper and run with it. Right? Hey, legal. Looks okay, right? CFO, looks okay, right? Okay, let's go. And then the fourth point, engineering wants to invest in product and not licensing capabilities, as it were. So what did we decide? Well, I guess I'm here. I'm here, so we went by. Right. So let's look at this new process that we're architecting with SafeNet. There's a lot more arrows. There's a lot more numbers. And a step zero. Step zero. I don't know, I'm an engineer. Numbers start at 0, right? Numbers 0, 0, 0. Step 0, client service, checks out Salesforce, either enters in information, validates the information in Salesforce. We're good to go. Step 1, still at their desk, logs into a portal SafeNet calls EMS, Entitlement Management System, over the web, in their browser, enters in the entitlement information, whether it's number of users, how much data they're allowed to use, so on and so forth. Okay, great. EMS then, step 3, sends an email to the customer that says, hey, welcome. You're a new Logi customer. Here's your license information. Step 4, customer then enters in that information into the product. And built in the Logi Vision now is a little piece of orange square, which you guys can't read. It says Cloud Runtime. So we have a little piece of code that's integrated into our product here at this point. And what this code will do for us is now, okay, let's take that license information, going to talk to a piece in the cloud hosted by SafeNet called Cloud Connect. It says, hey, I've got license key ABC123. What you got for me? Step 5, Cloud Connect says, step 6. Cloud Connect says, okay, this customer is licensed for this number of users, for this amount of time. Great. Logi Vision then accepts that data and says, great, customer, you're good to go. Or maybe you're not good to go. Okay. So there's the provisioning piece that I described. There's also the validation and monitoring piece, if you will, via this communication to Cloud Connect. Step 7 now is a periodic refresh. So there's a bit of a heartbeat at this point between our product and Cloud Connect. So every now and then, and this part's configurable, it's going to communicate with Cloud Connect and say, hey, here's the usage data. Here's how many people have been logged in. Are we still good to go? Yeah, we're still good to go. Okay. All this data that is sent up to Cloud Connect then becomes available for our product managers to report against within EMS, which is then step 8, which would be the part about application usage monitoring. That is what we're aiming for out of the gate. It certainly won't be the end state. Well, maybe I shouldn't say that. I mean, things will evolve. Okay, we will approach this project with iterations, but at the end of the day, this is sort of a good version 1, right? Phase 1 for us looks like this. Now, as far as the roadmap here, anyone have any guesses? I don't know, where we might be able to improve the process, maybe add some more automation into the process? Anyone? Anyone?
Link between Salesforce and EMS.
Okay, link between Salesforce and EMS. Great. What's your name?
Robert.
Robert. Great. I'll offer you a free drink over at happy hour later on. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. So in future iterations, why not integrate Salesforce with the SafeNet stuff? Right? If we do that, we can remove the manual process completed by client service where they enter in that entitlement information. So we can connect step 0, right, with something else. Numbers also go negative as well. So let's go further back up the chain. Hey, what about when we actually have a website where people can buy the stuff online, right? How's that going to be connected to Salesforce? Right, that's my step -1. Okay, so we can even go further back than that as well, and really make that process really seamless. Okay, so those are roadmap items for us that we look at improving this particular process. Additional roadmap items is to really flesh out the additional models that we want to use, right? Usage-based and data usage-based may not be in phase 1. That may get pushed out. Postpaid would certainly not be in phase 1. Postpaid is very interesting because with postpaid, you do need to offer some ability to present how much usage the user has used. Poor choice of words, right? But when we do this exchange of information, right? How's the customer going to know that, hey, they've used $5 worth of data analysis, right? $5,000 worth of data analysis, right? They need to understand that as they utilize the product. So we need to figure that part out as well. Okay. So that's a roadmap I know for us. Okay, ROI. I don't have a target ROI, right? I don't have a number in my head that says, hey, we need to be 5,000% ROI. Right. If I did, then the SafeNet's going to come back and raise the price on me. Right. During the renewal, right? Because we all learned that you need to increase the price during the renewal. Okay. But we certainly do look at a lot of the benefits. Increased flexibility. You can see we have a long history of utilizing different business models. 3 to 5 is what we need to target. I learned today. Okay. Reduce the time to market. Right. So again, right. Sales is going to want one thing. Right. Product's going to want one thing. We need to get this. We need to roll out new models as quickly as possible. Okay. If we were to do this on our own, we kind of figured out that it'd probably take maybe a little more than one headcount actually engineering-wise to build something like this. So if there was anything tangible that I can hold on to, is that 1+ ETF. Okay. And then finally, improving the user experience. Right? So improving the user experience. Out of the gate, this guy here. So this guy here. So we've actually got process improvement out of the gate already. So even though we had self-service capabilities where they needed to log into our portal before, we actually do a push today. So we are actually going to improve the user experience here a little bit. But what happens when their model changes, or they add new users, or they extend their license, right? What does that look like? Well, the change happens up here, okay, with the same license information. Because we change the data and the application is responsible with talking to the back end, the customer doesn't actually need to download another key and then enter in the digits again. Right? So there's improvement in the user experience for any changes to the licensing. Now, as far as the investment goes, so obviously there's the solution cost, which also as we learned, SafeNet doesn't have pricing on their website. So we heard not to do that. Okay, so I guess they don't do that. Training. We had 2 days of training for developers as well as for client service. That's really minimal. The integration of the runtime components as well. So from what I understand, engineering really hasn't had too many complaints about that. We've gotten all the support that we need from the SafeNet folks. Change in operations. This is a new product for us, so I suppose we're adding new operational steps as opposed to sort of replacing existing steps. From that standpoint, it's been more back-end work. I think that there certainly has been effort in that space, but we're not moving mountains there. Okay, so I would call that a minimal change on our end. So that's the next step in evolution for us, not only in our product portfolio, but in the way we license as well. And I want to wrap up with a few takeaways. And this part of the presentation, I actually wish I had some of Bob's cool graphics there. Flexibility was awesome, by the way. That guy doing yoga, it's great. All right. So we like to align ourselves with value, right? Server-based, actually what's interesting is you could actually argue that maybe server-based we were giving away too much value. But that was our way of getting market share at the end of the day. So align ourselves with value. Listen to the market. So unfortunately, that for some folks that actually means working with sales. Yeah. Actually, so most software and SaaS providers in the survey that we did were, found themselves to be customer-focused companies, right? So who's talking to potential customers the most? Right? Sales is. That's how we work with our folks internally, because they actually have the most feet on the street, at least with at Logi. Segment your market, right? We learned early on that one size does not fit all. Right? It's probably the same for you as well. Those 3 to 5 business models are going to fit most of your applications, most of your customers. Focus on improving the user experience. That kind of goes without saying, although I guess everyone's been lobbing in their own experiences when it comes to this. Out of college, my first job, I worked for an FPGA company here in the Valley, and the top product technical support issue that we had was around licensing software. Like, it won't work, right? You installed it, and the thing came up with LM host error. Right? The top knowledge base article in the support portal. LM host error number 5532, right? And this was an FPGA company. Right? They made money by selling nails. You can't get the hammer to work. That's my story. Reduce friction in the process. I didn't know friction was such a popular word in this industry. I should have come up with something better. Friction. Okay. Iterate, right? Software development talks a lot about agile. Right? This is part of your product. You need to be agile here. we will be. Finally, be different. We've tried to be different, not only in the way we offer our product works, but also in the way we license as well. Unless, of course, you're in the business intelligence industry, so continue doing what you're doing. How many people? No. Okay. Okay, that's all I've got for you guys. Questions?
How much pushback did your customers give you when you told them that you were going to be harvesting information out of their environment regarding their usage of software that they had?
That's a great question. So I don't know yet. So we haven't done this quite yet. So our plan is to really monitor the size of the database. There's an internal database within our application. It's really about the size of that database, not around what data there is.
Your metrics were what parts of the application are you using, what things like that. That's what your target was, which is getting very specific and not just flopped on or not gross. You were looking for more specific measures as opposed to gross aggregate.
That's a great point. I don't know yet. I don't know yet. And I believe we probably should actually give them a notification about that. I'm just thinking about, every time I install Windows Office, right? It says, are you okay with, telling Microsoft about usage on this product, right? And they give you a little checkbox thing, right? That may be what we have to implement there. In all honesty, so I don't know. That's a great point there, and that's a great takeaway. I'm glad this is recorded because I won't have the ability to take notes and remember this great question that you've had.
For your new product, do you have any provision for end user not having access to internet?
Ah, yes. Okay, here we go.
We're in an industry that a lot of our customers sometimes are prohibited to access or don't have it.
Yeah, so that's a great point, and in fact, it's a gentleman that I spoke with this afternoon about this. This is not a unique question. Right? I'm getting a lot of nodding heads here in the room. So this heartbeat's configurable. So in one sense, I will say that the sort of occasional internet access will suffice to support this model. So you don't need to have internet access all the time, right? So that heartbeat is not sort of a constant sort of every 5-second thing. Oh, they clicked on yes, they clicked on right. In this model, so if they're not on the internet, this, I don't know. SafeNet, you guys get this question all the time.
Don't you have a manual process to back this up?
So the license is locally.
The license is locally controlled, so if an internet connection isn't present, it just goes to the local license. So when a network connection comes back, then it reconnects, it validates, and it moves on. You can configure how long that disconnect will be acceptable to you as the ISV. So that disconnect could be an hour, 24 hours, 7 days, 30 days. It actually could be infinity, meaning that the only time you need to get the license is the initial install of the application. It goes back, it gets the license, it installs it, and if you lost internet connectivity from that point forward, the application would function within the constraints of the license.
So what about in a scenario customers simply don't have it?
So a pure dark environment.
Right.
So that's a completely different deployment. You wouldn't use a Sentinel Cloud type solution for that. We have products that solve that problem.
Can you do a combination of both where some customers
Yes.
never have access and some will?
Yeah, we can That's a lot longer conversation. So, so short answer is yes.
Okay.
Yeah, different products.
Thanks for the question. You gave me another reason to buy more product from SafeNet.